Good morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic, why your references matter. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today is the jaunty Jim Warner.
Hello, guys.
Jim, welcome to Caffeinate Your Career.
Thank you.
Checking to see if we are live, and we are. So let's kick this off. Reference checks are kind of important. It could be the thing that will determine whether or not you get hired, depending on who you choose as a reference. And Jim, we're going to break this down into 4 different parts. The first being who would be an ideal reference.
Yes.
Second, who would be just an okay reference. Third part, who you want to avoid adding as a reference. And then the last bit, how to manage your references.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
So the first one, an ideal professional reference, former supervisor or manager.
Absolutely. They know your work style. If you had done a great job, an admirable job with that company, and that manager knows it, he would be an ideal reference. Absolutely.
I think that before, as you were talking, one of the things that I just popped into my head, and I think that we should probably clarify for people, yes, a manager would be an ideal reference. But people forget you get to choose who your references are.
Yes.
This came up a few weeks ago with a client, and they're like, well, I was terminated, and so I don't think my former manager would be a good... Don't use that person.
Right.
It's like, it does not have to be a former manager or supervisor.
Without a doubt.
I mean, yes, is that an ideal? Of course, but it doesn't have to be.
That doesn't.
It could easily be, number 2, a former colleague or coworker.
Absolutely. I think they know your work style. They could write a excellent reference about you, and they could be a fantastic source for reference.
Right. They're going to know how you work because you've worked with them on projects. They can speak to how you work as a team member. It's funny. Years ago, I was an on-site manager, and it was a very large on-site. So there were 2 other guys, one supervisor, me, the other guy who mostly did payroll, and we were all talking at lunch one day, and so the supervisor had said, "Guys, we're not going to be here forever. We're just going to move on in our careers and our lives. How does everybody feel about being a reference for each other?
Yes.
Should we need?"
Perfect.
And we were like, "Yeah, that sounds great." So if I get a call today, even today, over 10 years, if I get a call and somebody asks me about James Garibay, I know exactly why they're calling, because we made that pact years ago.
That's wonderful. Oh my goodness, that's great. That's super wonderful. The next one, clients and customers.
Yeah.
In sales, working with a client or any other business, working with a client, and the client's happy with your performance, it's not out of the ordinary to ask them for a reference.
I think that besides the manager, I think that a client reference is the top.
Speaks volumes.
The top.
Absolutely.
Because your manager's like say something nice about you or whatever, but like if you have somebody on a client because you're delivering excellent customer service time and time and time again, that is the best.
You're right, but I think, well, let's go back just for a minute to your former supervisor. Unless you ask for that reference letter while employed, write me something good. And they're going to write you something good. They're going to send you an email that says, "Wow, you did a phenomenal job." Those are keepers. Those are things you need to keep. But you leave the company. Some companies have rules that say you can't talk about the former employee. You can't say a thing. Not good, not bad.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes. In which case, that you end up sending somebody over to the HR department.
Well, without a doubt. And HR is going to say, no, he worked here from this date to this date, and they may say he's hireable or not hireable,
Correct.
and that's not a great reference.
It's right. It just is validating that you actually work there
Yeah,
more than
right.
anything else.
Sure.
And which is part of, I think, why we're making reference checks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we want somebody to say something nice about us.
Yeah.
But also to, like, I don't know. Like, here's your resume.
Mm-hmm.
You just gave me a piece of paper with stuff on it. Did you actually work there? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you actually work there in the timeline that you said that you did?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But if I can call somebody or talk to somebody that will verify that, yes, this is actual true, it makes a difference.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah, I remember. So I used to be an on-site manager. I was an on-site manager at a couple of different major corporations, and that's funny that you said, like, while you're still employed,
Yeah.
because I always would ask, and because I usually had become pretty close and to the HR people that I'm working
Mm-hmm.
there for, because I'm in their office or right next to their office, and you become close, you become friends. It's like, can you write me up something nice? And
Mm-hmm.
I think the client references are just the best.
There's another way to approach references, and that is for the person that maybe will get around to it. Sometimes it's helpful to provide that reference, what you want them to say, actually in the format that you want it to be, and a place for their signature.
Yeah.
That sometimes works, and
Yes.
that's an idea, because there's some people that are not eloquent, some people that don't write well, but somebody who knows your style is not going to lie, but the actual act of writing the reference is something that may not happen in the timeline that you need.
How long do you think a reference letter should be?
I think it should be a page,
Just about
if
that?
that, yeah.
Okay. I often wonder because it's like, you hit like 2, 3, 4 points, why they're good and why would they be a good hire. Um, you know, is it like going to be short?
So it's going to be short, but maybe we want to highlight, within that reference letter, consistently, George was 100% the plan. Those kinds of numbers, just like on the resume, would want to quantify how good you are. The reference should include, you were rookie of the year, you were 3-time owner award for the last 3 years. You were always on the top of the pack. Those are things that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Okay. Another ideal reference would be a mentor or advisor.
Yes, absolutely. Having a broad perspective on your background, especially from somebody who's taught you and have seen you grow through your learning phase, would be ideal, and that person would be an excellent reference. I agree.
I did that been about 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client who had interviewed for a position that she would be a good fit for, and asked, "Will you write me a reference?"
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah."
Yep.
So here's my email.
Yep.
You tell the person that emailed me what they're looking for, and I will write something up. And did a damn good job because she's been hired for over 6 months now.
Wow,
so
that's fantastic.
I mean, and I don't fit. I fit that, right? Because I helped coach her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't supervise her. Or, I wasn't directly, reporting to her.
Mm-hmm.
But those type of people often can be a good resource for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. And also direct reports. If you're a manager, you've got people that work for you, they could talk to how good you are as a leader.
Mm-hmm. Anybody that knows your work history or how you manage or your leadership abilities would be excellent references.
Jim, you're retired.
Yes.
But if you needed 3 references today,
mm-hmm.
Do you have them?
Absolutely. Yes.
Same. Like, yeah, same. I'm like, well, let's see. Let me think about that for a minute. It's like absolutely. I've got, easily 3, 4 people I could call. And it's funny, when I interviewed here, I was working at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were not a lot of people that I was currently working with. There was one person that I was currently working with that was a really good buddy of mine, Greg Williams, who knew I was looking for work.
Mm-hmm.
And he also was my trainer and supervisor there at the workforce in Plano. And so I used him, right, because Allison wanted 3 references. The other thing I did was I saw that the position was open,
mm-hmm.
and then I leveraged my network because I knew that I didn't know his name, Bob. I didn't know Bob very well. I had met him at the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
He is a vet. He did a talk for the vet reps or veterans. And then I got to know him. He was the manager of a staffing company, shut down his staffing company for the day, came in to hear me do a talk,
mm-hmm.
and brought his team, right? And so I knew that he had a presentation here.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him if he would put in a good word for me with the HR person here.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote up a really long and nice reference for me. Said he'd get connected to him on LinkedIn, put my LinkedIn URL up in there. Yeah. Really set me up for success. It also helped that I knew our lead, Mitch Jacobs, here, who I went to directly. So I sent Mitch a DM, attached my resume. Then I contacted Bob. Bob wrote up a nice letter to
mm-hmm.
send to the HR person, Marlene. So going into the interview,
yeah.
I already had 2 people vouching for me that said something nice
within the organization.
That's right. Well, Bob was not in the organization, but he knew somebody,
mm-hmm.
and which kind of leads to job search. It's all a whole lot about who you know,
oh yes,
more than what you know.
Yeah. Oh yes.
And you're not, and that's the thing, Jim. You're not going to know everything, right?
Right.
So, but if you have people that think that you are doing well and can do the job,
mm-hmm.
you've already set yourself up. So going into this interview, I already had 2 people saying nice things about me and vouching for me. And that, I think, makes the difference when you're choosing references.
So let me ask you a question in regards to that. So
Yes.
you're going into a blind company, okay? You don't know this company. You don't know players within this company. How do you get a reference from those players within that company that you don't know?
A lot of that is going to come from how well you've built your brand. They don't know me,
mm-hmm.
and I don't particularly know them. But if they know something about me because of my brand,
mm-hmm.
because of what I have done on LinkedIn, posting content,
yeah.
on why it is that I'm the expert in the field,
mm-hmm.
it goes easier. I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, our marketing director went to go and interview, and she actually got the job at Senior Source.
Okay.
I knew somebody at Senior Source. I went through career coach training with Christina, and then we kept in touch, and we would have some kind of meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We virtually, like once a month, we would do a virtual call just to catch up and talk.
Right.
What's going on over there? Here's what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So Jamie goes over there to interview. She meets my friend Christina, and also the CEO of the company. So she comes back. She goes, "Hey," and she'd already announced that she accepted the position.
Right.
So we already knew. She said, "Oh, by the way, I met your friend Christina, and also, I don't know the person's name.
Right.
This person over here."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Who?" And she goes, "She's the CEO of Senior Source." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I don't really know her." She goes, "She knows you." She does.
Interesting.
She said, "Yes." In fact, she said, she doesn't want to poach you from JFS, but she said if you were ever interested in leaving and coming over here, she'd be more than happy to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and you're right. I'm like, How did that happen?
Yeah.
How that happened is because I built brand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that I know some of the people, it's the people know me. So the answer to your question, how do you get into that situation? Steve Martin quote, be so good that they can't ignore you.
I hear you. Another way that we have found that's helpful is as you're interested in a specific company, and maybe you have an interview plan, maybe you don't, you develop a relationship with people within that company, maybe even through a LinkedIn messaging.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to a point where that person understands your background, your capabilities, and they have an ear to leadership.
So you're talking, Jim, about setting up informational interviews.
Absolutely.
Virtual coffees.
Yeah.
One of the things that I work with clients on is identify some places you want to work, target companies.
Right.
Don't waste your time trying to get to the recruiter. Recruiter's busy. They don't have time to talk to you.
Exactly, yes.
But if you can find somebody in the department you're trying to break into, and then I've got this down to the script on asking for virtual coffee that makes people go, like, why are we even on LinkedIn if we're not going to communicate? And that's the thing that people don't get about LinkedIn. The entire platform is set up to encourage communication.
Yes.
All of it. And all you need to do is ask for that virtual coffee and remind them we're on LinkedIn to communicate. I just want 20 minutes of your time to talk. And basically what I work with clients was building champions in at companies where they want to work.
Absolutely. So you didn't have them as a reference before that telephone call, but you never know. I mean, that now can become a reference within that company. You get an opportunity to talk to leadership, and who knows, you might even get hired.
Yeah. I mean, if you, just like me, I knew Mitch, who worked here. He was able to put in a good word for me with Allison.
Yes.
Same thing. If you just kind of build up the relationship and continue, that's the other thing too, is you have to continue to foster the relationship and follow up and keep them, you top of mind.
Right.
That was weird grammar. Words are hard. It's a good thing we're not live right now or anything. All right. Not ideal, but somewhat acceptable references could be a professor or academic advisor.
Sure. Yep. Especially for somebody that's coming out of school. They don't have a lot of real work history, but they were excellent students. They learned a lot under these advisors, and the advisors understands that and could be a reference.
Well, yeah, often too, yes, because in school you'll often have projects, right? And you have somebody that you are accountable to, mainly the professor who's doing the project. They can't see what type of work you turn in this project. Also too, and this would be a good one, but also to volunteer. I think, and guys, if it's been, I'm going to say 3 months, 4 months, and nothing's happening, go volunteer somewhere. I'm big on volunteering. 1, you're giving back. 2, you're out. You're out of the house. You're out and doing something productive. 3, you're working.
Yes.
You don't just show up as a volunteer and just stand. You are working. They put you to work.
Right.
And then 3rd, you're networking. You're talking to people. You're getting to know other people. And, and a volunteer supervisor could be a good reference for you. In fact, that's so we were just talking.
Yes.
Right before this, we were talking about how people end up in their positions. And I was telling you the story of our new senior director, Jill Takamoto, volunteer in the food pantry. Position came open for food pantry coordinator. She applied, and our food pantry manager, or director, Robin, was like, oh, no, you'd be a better fit over here with Allison's group.
Right.
She interviewed with Allison, ended up getting the job, right? Just because she was here volunteering.
That's right. It's about networking. It's about being exposed.
Yes.
Yeah.
What? Just in general, job search in general,
Mm-hmm.
it is. Are you visible?
Yeah. Right.
Right. Because like the people that are known, the people that are visible. I just told you a whole story about somebody who knows me,
Mm-hmm.
basically just built off of the content and things I do on LinkedIn.
I think networking as well, you know, in groups that are put together, that are outside, external, you join them, you can learn a lot from those people that are in the room. Maybe you wouldn't get a job, but maybe you'll learn a little bit about some of their trials and tribulations, their successes, their failures. That's all improvement.
It's that human piece.
Mm-hmm.
In a world where everything, including job search, is automated,
Mm-hmm.
it's so important, I think, to put the human back into the process.
Without a doubt.
Which is why we have one of the reasons we do reference checks, right?
Yeah.
Who to avoid, Jim, as a reference?
Well, we don't need Dad to write a letter and say my son is the best thing since sliced bread, though he probably is in Dad's eyes. But credibility won't be there.
Friends as well. Like no family, no friends. Like your friends, of course, are going to say something nice about
Mm-hmm.
you, but unless you've actually worked with them, and then or like maybe you come from a family business, right? Like yeah, your dad owns the business and he could write you a nice letter, but also too, it's a little biased.
Right, but we did talk earlier about coworkers,
Mm-hmm.
and those coworkers can become friends. So to that extent, coworkers are a good reference, and if those coworkers are friends, they're a good reference.
I agree.
Yeah.
I could be agreeable to that. Yeah, because they started out not as friends,
Well,
but coworkers.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between like me getting a reference from somebody that works here versus my friends that I grew beer with.
Well, exactly. Yes.
Right? Because they don't know how it works.
Right.
People that you don't have a lot of interaction with.
Who, like, for example?
Maybe just like an acquaintance, somebody you just kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
They can't speak to what it is that you actually do,
Yes.
or really what it comes down to is what value can you provide.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't really know you very well, they can't really speak to the type of things that you do.
There's an exception there, I think, and that is the exception is maybe that individual plays a role in an organization that you're interested in, and you've met them in a different environment, but you need to utilize them for the key to get into that other opportunity. So in that case, I think there is an exception.
Are you talking like we were just talking about, like somebody that you just kind of met and got into doing a informational interview with?
Absolutely. Well, more along the lines of the networking coffee through LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. Now we're interacting with somebody who has a knowledge of a company and opportunity. That person can be, if nothing else, your introduction to that company, and his reference speaks volumes. Then
I think that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered that point, but yeah,
mm-hmm.
That's a good. I think that is a good. In fact, I know it is because that's exactly how I ended up in this chair.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't. It's the funny thing about that story is with me leveraging my network and Mitch putting in a good word for me.
Right.
I did not meet Mitch in person until the day I started work here. I built the entire relationship out on LinkedIn, by email, just virtually.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, even the day that I was coming in to interview, I sent him a DM. I said, "Hey, I'll be in at 9:30 to talk to Allison. It'd be great if I could say hey and meet you in person." He's like, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." And he had a client I didn't see him. I didn't meet him until the day I started work here.
That's crazy.
You can you can build, and you're talking about like virtual coffee and informational interviews, and we do these things by Zoom, right?
Yeah.
But like it can be done. Like the whole thing can be built out. I'm proof that it works.
It can. So in that case, you know, I think you need to take advantage of those things, like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, not so good references. People you're currently working with that you don't ask their permission.
Oh yes, absolutely. Actually, everybody who you utilize as a reference, you need to ask permission, or at least give them a heads up that they may be contacted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had the same. Like they when Allison was calling references for me, she was having trouble getting hold of someone.
Yeah.
So two people.
Yeah.
Even though I told them, and so I'm like, who else can I call to give her a number to get me in this door, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think she ended up just talking to two people, but yeah, I think that that's one of the things is. Let me ask you this. This is funny to me. Have you ever called a reference and got a bad reference?
I have.
Yes.
Yes.
I have as well in my time as a recruiter, and I'm like, why did you give me this person's like that? And it's funny because sometimes managers don't know what they can and cannot say. And I've had I've talked to a couple managers before that have been there were references for people like I don't know why they gave you my name. They were late every day. I had to terminate them. They had a bad attitude. I'm like,
right.
I'm writing all this down. Like, wow, this is good information.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the various references. If you had to only pick 3 that you're going to present to a hiring authority, what 3 would they be?
I would probably rely on former coworkers. One who would be Allison, because I worked directly for her. She's retired now, so she's got no skin in the game, and I know she would say nice stuff about me.
Yeah.
The other would be my former coworker who used to work here as a financial coach, Kristen Lobenstein. And probably third, I would go back to my supervisor again, Greg Williams.
So we talked about client references, and do you not think that we need to include one of those in the mix?
Yes, I could, but and in fact, my last onsite, John and I became friends. He was the HR manager. He became friends, and he did, I believe, write something up really nice for me, and as a reference, but also too, it's not very current. I have been out of staffing for over 10 years now. John and I will occasionally text on the phone. He's somebody I've fallen out
right. Yeah.
of. Right. So like when you're like references, I'm in my head. I'm like current.
Current. Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because even though John would still say nice stuff about me, it's like, oh, he was a great on-site manager. Blah blah blah. Also, too, and this is part of the next bit is make sure that you are selecting relevant references.
Yeah.
If I'm going to continue in the same line of work as a career coach and go somewhere else to do it, him saying I'm a great on-site manager is not relevant to what I'm doing right now. But Allison, Kristen, and Greg, who it's all in contact with,
right,
still would say, oh yeah, he's a great coach. So
great.
It's important that you come up with references that are going to be relevant to where you're going. Jim, it's interesting. We talked right before this because I didn't include it in the notes, but like, what are your thoughts on referrals on LinkedIn?
Oh, I think it's 100% mandatory that you have people that respect you, understand your work experience, your clients, all those people we're talking about, adding referrals or references on your LinkedIn profile. You can say that you're great on your resume. You can talk about how wonderful you are. I think what's really looked at is what the referrals say, how they believe you actually did on the job, and what kind of person you are, and that you live up to what you promise you're going to do Those are very important.
So you brought this up earlier, and here is where I think writing it yourself works really well because people are busy, right? But if you can kind of write up something, send it to somebody or whomever is going to do the referral for you on LinkedIn, and then they just copy paste it and put it into your referral, that can work pretty well.
It does. It works very well, and I think that should be definitely offered to that references. As you being the author of that reference.
Yeah, when I'm done with clients, like when they get their job, and I always ask, write a referral for me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Some will, some won't. That's fine. I get it. But I think it's always important to, because at this point, you've earned the ask, right?
Yeah.
I've provided excellent service to you because you just got a job, and now I've earned the ask. Hey, you mind writing me a referral on LinkedIn?
Right. Which brings me up to an adjunct, which is the thank you. As recruiters, we instruct our candidates to thank everybody along the way. The hiring authority, the people that got you to the hiring authority, all the way along the way. And they do that. They listen to us, some that are smart. But I would tell you, out of 80 placements that we would do in a year, I would say maybe we got from those same candidates that we were able to successfully put in a job, maybe 3 out of the 80 voluntarily sent a thank you note to us. Yeah, hardly anybody. That was just really crazy. So, as a recommendation, thank your recruiter if they get you that job.
Yeah, and leave them a recommendation on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
It shows that they know what they are doing. Jim, how do you feel about just the process of reference checks?
It's done. I don't like it personally, but I think it's necessary.
Do you think it's kind of one of those things that's just hanging on? I'll explain. I think that it's one of the things, reference checks are kind of one of the things that's just continuing to just plod along within the job search. In today's technological world, I'm not certain that it makes 100% sense. And here's why. I could give you 3 different Google numbers and come up with 3 different accents. Yeah. Oh yeah, hire Jim. He's great. I love him so much. He's the best. Right? Because you don't know who's on the other end of the phone. Could be, or even there was an episode of Seinfeld with. Did you ever watch Seinfeld?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Vandalay Industries. Remember George gave him Jerry's number to pretend that he's hot. You just never know who's on the other end of the phone.
You don't.
We want to really get into it. I mean, I could even come up with and create a fake LinkedIn profile and go and do a referral for me. I mean, there's all kinds of ways around it today. Back in the day, yeah, of course, because we were not as technologically sound. But I think in today's world, it's one of those things that keeps kind of hanging on and is not going away anytime soon. I don't believe. I do think that a referral on LinkedIn is carries weight because you can't see it's should be an actual person, right? But I think overall, and I know for me when I was doing a lot of hiring and in staffing, a lot of it was just do I like you? Do you have a good personality? Do you have a good attitude? And is my gut going, oh yeah, you're gonna be good, versus in today's world trying to of course, you should have a minimum of 3 people in your life that might say something nice about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if not, like, again, like I was provided a reference for somebody, she just didn't have a lot of friends, or like, okay, cool. But like, I think like it's just one of those things that keeps plodding along in the job search, kind of like a resume.
I get it, but you talked about somebody that you called as a reference that said, no, he's late all the time. He doesn't hit his
Terrible.
numbers. I mean, you make it one of those. And I think to that extent, it may be worth 3 phone calls, even if some of them lie and some of them
Yeah.
are not accurate.
I when I was in staffing, I remember going to I believe it was Pride staff. I'd done the application online, but here's the paper application. Do it real quick, and it said write 2 references.
Mm-hmm.
As I'm walking out the door, the front desk person said, "Hey, I just spoke to your 2 references. They said nice things about you." Oh, okay, great. Like while I'm in the interview, they're conducting the reference checks already, and then but staffing goes pretty fast. So
But on the topic of LinkedIn, LinkedIn, your presence there is really important, professional presence. But also think back about your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, those things that you're saying to the people that are on those platforms. How you're looking. Are you shown drinking a beer, smoking a joint, what have you? Those are all things that we look at as recruiters, and those are just as important as those references, as how you portray yourself to that hiring authority.
Again, social media so much has changed the way job search works.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you told a story a couple weeks ago, but the video interview that ended in 3 minutes because the guy had a bar on the shelf right behind him. It's like, you didn't really think about that, right? I mean, it is. I think when we are talking about things and brand, and like, there are certain things that you can do to work on and building brand.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do a presentation on how to build brand, and I started asking questions. Who knows I have a podcast called Caffeinate Your Career?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows that I'm always wearing Vans sneakers? And then I get into some of the lesser pieces of my brand that is kind of known, but not always well known. Like the fact that, and I just mentioned it, I'm a home brewer. I brew beer.
Mm-hmm.
You go look at my profile for X, you will see me in the profile picture holding a beer. I like beer. I'm an adult. Like, you know what I mean? I think too much, right? But like, if it is part of who you are and your brand,
I get
it's
that.
fine.
I get that. It is. But be careful. There's things that you've said out there. You've been angry. You write some terrible post. Those posts are looked at.
Oh my gosh! I saw just last week. Now, I'm not connected to this person on LinkedIn, but the way LinkedIn works is if you are connected to somebody and they comment on the post, you have the ability to see it.
Yeah.
And this person obviously had a bad interview. They called out the company. They called out and tagged the recruiter and just like lambasted it, right? And so I saw it because the person, and this is just LinkedIn, this should be LinkedIn in general. Yeah. The person responded that I'm connected to and said, so just, you might not want to have a post like this. It looks bad. It was like nice in trying to correct them.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. That sort of thing does happen. And, I think like when we're any social media, any kind of hot topic, you want to stay away from that.
Absolutely. Like the election.
There's
probably a lot of thoughts you have. You're angry. You're happy. You don't know where you're going to go. You don't use 4-letter words or side with anybody publicly.
Yeah, you just never know who. It doesn't matter if it's that or not. Like a year ago when Roe versus Wade was overturned, like any kind of a hot topic, you don't want to get.
Well, I have a friend, for example, and he's not in the job market. He owns his own business, and he's on Facebook, and he's far left. I mean, his political views are far left, and so every day or every other day, he's posting about how terrible Trump is and how important it is to keep the Democrats in office, but aggressively. and he's got a painting firm in Richardson, Texas, and with this painting firm, majority of his clients are Republican. So they see this heavy left Democrat social posting. How many customers has he lost?
Yeah. Well, that's the other part of that. Is when you're in job search mode, you are selling yourself.
You are.
And you want to make sure that the product that you're selling, is going to be somewhat attractive to potential employers.
Without a doubt. Yes.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Like he probably lost customers, and if he's fine with that, that's great. But
And I've asked him about it. I said, "Do you think that this is going to alienate your client base?" Well, if that's the case, well then I don't want them as a client.
That's your choice.
That is his choice.
But it's the same thing, like for job search, and that's the other thing that people don't quite get about job search is everybody thinks that the employer or potential employer is in charge of the process, and they're not.
Right.
The job seeker is in charge of everything. The only thing the employer controls is somewhat what time we can talk to you,
mm-hmm.
and 2, here's the pen, sign, I want to hire you.
Yeah.
Job seeker controls everything else. But a lot of people don't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's just because they don't understand job search in general.
Right. That's why they need a coach.
That's why they need a coach. And if you need help in your job search, you can call me at 972-437-9950, extension 379. Leave a message. Somebody from the team will get back to you in 24 hours, and we'll start that process.
Do you do this virtually? Could somebody who is in New York or Los Angeles or anywhere other than Dallas use you as a coach?
Yes. I've got a client right now that's in Pennsylvania. I've got one that is in California. You don't have to be local. We could do Zoom, we could do phone calls, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, good setup, Jim.
Excellent.
Michael Rosenberg asked, do reference letters and LinkedIn references carry the same weight? Should we have both? Is one preferred over the other? Jim, thoughts?
Repeat that, please.
Okay. Do reference letters and LinkedIn references carry the same weight? Should we have both? Is one preferred over the other?
I think you need both. Absolutely. Because you're hitting somebody new that may be interested in you as a candidate, and you can bring the same, or you can have other references when you actually physically meet them.
I think that a LinkedIn referral would carry more weight than a piece of paper that you're going to show, a Xerox piece of paper.
Well, I get that.
And the reason is because, with technology, with the things that we could do, I can grab a logo from McKesson, put it in a Word doc, and make it look like and type up. I can even have. If I want to just pencil whip it, I can have AI do it for me.
But luckily, the number of scammers that are out there or candidates that lie are small, hopefully, compared to those that don't.
I think yes. I think everybody should be looked at in a fair light. But yes, if we wanted to cut corners and just make stuff up, we could do it, and it could look like it came from that letterhead.
It could.
Yeah.
It could.
Thanks for the question, Mike. I appreciate that. Jim, we are at time.
Unbelievable. That went fast.
I told you it would go fast.
I hope you enjoyed this out there. This is my last session
for now.
For the month.
For now, we're gonna bring you back here in a few months. But I appreciate the time and coming in.
My pleasure,
yes,
sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes,
fun question for the day. What's your ideal breakfast?
That would have to be a bagel, lox, cream cheese, a tomato, maybe a little piece of Swiss cheese, and a cup of coffee.
I'm coming over to your house tomorrow for breakfast. Mine would be, so my wife makes scrambled eggs, biscuits, gravy. So full. Like afterwards, I'm like, I just need to go lay down and take a nap. But it's like the best. Love gravy.
That's awesome.
I love gravy. So next week, Scott Butnick will be here.
Wonderful. He's a great recruiter.
Scott is a lifelong recruiter. Scott will be here, and our topic will be I forgot. I forgot. I looked at you and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, Scott. I just did it yesterday too, and I totally forgot. I went right out of bed. Anyway, Scott will be here. We'll be talking about job search stuff. I will be at the Workforce in Plano tonight at 5:30. That's 1101 Resource Drive in Plano, Texas, 75074. 5:30 to 6:30, I'll be doing a presentation called Rocking the Video Interview, because video interviewing is not going away. So come out and see me later. And Jim, again, it's been a pleasure. We'll have you back in a few months, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.